Thank you, Dr. Panchabhai, sir. It is a great privilege to introduce Dr. Ashok Kumar Valupadu, sir, who is the Deputy Director, Veterinary and Animal Husbandry, Telangana. And Dr. Ashok Kumar, sir, is working as a Deputy Director, Veterinary and Animal Husbandry Department of Telangana. He has joined this Telangana State Department in 1989 and has a vast experience of almost 32 years of service. And to his credit, he has given several this live TV shows and all India radio programs for sheep and goat. And it is my privilege to inform you that he is passionate about this sheep and goats, that is the small ruminants, for which in last 12 years he has received awards and merit certificates from the state governments as well as the district authorities. He has received Dr. C.K. Rao Endowment Trust Memorial Gold Medal in 2009. He is also recipient of Dr. C.M. Singh Memorial Lifetime Achievement Award in 2020, and also he has received National Excellence Award in Animal Welfare in 2020. So he is trying to promote this intensive sheep or goat farming through Satya Zero Grazing and Cliff's WhatsApp platforms. So through these platforms, he has almost gathered 5,100 veterinarians. So all these field veterinarians, veterinary teaching faculties, and scientists across all over length and breadth of this country, and in association with CSA Hyderabad, that is Center for Sustainable Agriculture, he has organized 3 webinars per month on sheep and goat, along with Alembic Pharma as a knowledge partner. So far, he has conducted 7 webinars on sheep and goat and is maintaining one YouTube channel also. So these webinars, they are organized through this Satya Zero Grazing, and he has been international speaker for 2 international webinars also, which were organized by this our own institute, that is Mapsu Nagpur. And he has participated 4 times as a speaker in national webinars on behalf of Satya Zero Grazing and others. So I welcome you, sir, with your vast experience and the knowledge and as well as the passion of working for small ruminant farmers. So it will be very much beneficial to all the participants to learn from your experiences. So I request you to kindly share your presentation, sir. You can unmute, sir.
Good evening to all.
Good evening, sir.
Sir, please allow me to share my screen.
Okay. Dr. Thomre? Yes, sir.
Still it is in disabled status.
डॉक्टर ठोंबरे त्यांना केलं का को-होस्ट?
सर को-होस्ट आहे सर.
मग का नाही होत आहे शेअर?
Yes, sir. I have changed the settings, sir.
ओके. Yeah, it's visible, sir. It's
Yes.
visible. Yes.
Okay. Good evening to all. I welcome all of you for the first day session of 5 days training program organized by Postgraduate Institute of Veterinary and Animal Sciences, Akola, Maharashtra. The topic is herd health management of goats. And I thank all the higher authorities of PG Institute of Veterinary and Animal Sciences, Akola. Special thanks to Professor A.U. Bikane, sir. So who identified me as a speaker in 2020. And I thank all the coordinators, coordinator Dr. Giri sir, and co-coordinators Dr. Dilip, Dr. Praveen, Dr. Mohini, and Dr. Kuldeep. So before starting my PowerPoint, so I would like to explain you what is herd, what is health, and what is management. So these are the contents which I am going to present in my PowerPoint. I will be explaining about health management versus maintenance. One needs to know the difference between management and maintenance, the importance of health management and the components of health management, and preventive healthcare chart of kids. See, herd is a large group of goats. A large group of sheep is known as flock. A large group of goat is known as herd. The definition of health is the state of being free from illness or injury. State of being free from illness or injury. The disease is nothing but illness. If we are free from illness, that is called health, and if we are suffering with illness, that is called disease. The difference between maintenance and management: maintenance means the process of maintaining or preserving the status. The status of animal will be maintained or preserved, that is maintenance. But whereas management is the process of dealing with or controlling the health. It is also called as care also, management care also. Maintenance is part of management. So our today's topic is herd health management. So one should understand what happens if health management is neglected. If health management is neglected, herd suffers with infections, infestations, and disorders. So what happens if herd suffers with infections, infestations, and disorders? The entire farm suffers with mortality, suffers with poor farm productivity, and suffers with forced culling. Then what is farm productivity? So I am using these two terms with relation to the meat production only. If the goat are maintained for meat production, the number of kids sold per each cycle is one parameter of farm productivity and the average daily gain. If wool breeds are maintained, the quantity of wool produced, and if milk breeds are maintained, the quantity of milk produced per lactation comes under farm productivity. So what will happen if farm suffers with mortality, poor farm productivity, and forced culling? The farming turns unprofitable and unsustainable. That is the reason we need to know the importance of health management. So as per 20th livestock census, 29% of all India livestock population is goat. Only 14% is sheep. Just to have an idea, I have given the figures of sheep also. India holds 148.9 million goat. that is 14.9 crores of goat, whereas the sheep population is almost half of that. Goats are termed as small ruminants. They play important role in rural economy, self-employment, and human nutrition. In India, goat farming by and large is a community profession. And goat farming is an economic activity for poor and landless rural families. It is not a commercial activity for them. And 35 lakh plus households are rearing goat for their livelihood. 35 lakh plus households, whereas the persons who are rearing sheep, it is almost half of this, around 15 to 16 lakhs. And these are the states holding highest goat as per 2019 livestock census. Rajasthan holds highest number of goat. Next to it is West Bengal, third position Uttar Pradesh, fourth is Bihar, fifth is Madhya Pradesh. Except Tamil Nadu, which falls in South India, all the places, all the top 6 places belong to North India only. In India, there are 34 recognized breeds. As per ICAR NBAGR, the breeds recognized in India are 34. These are the elite breeds. And these breeds are of 3 types. Meat breeds, milk and meat breeds, fiber and meat breeds. Among 34 breeds, there are 11 meat breeds. Milk and meat type of breeds are 16. Fiber and meat breeds are 7. So among all these breeds, milk and meat type of breeds are high in number. So these are the 3 products which we get from sheep and goat: milk, fiber, and meat. There are other 2 products which we get from goat, that is manure and skin. That is the reason goat are called as 5-star animal. Then what is the economic activity of the people who are rearing goat? The beginning slide, I told you that this is an economic activity for the livelihood of the poor landless farmers. So when it is termed as 5-star animal, and when it is giving 3 food type of 2 food products, milk and meat, and 3 other products, wool or fiber. In case of goat, we call it as fiber, manure and skin. What is their main economic activity? Is it sale of fiber? No. Is it sale of milk? No. Is it sale of manure? Is it sale of skin? No. Is it sale of farm-born kids? Yes. Goats are reared majorly for meat and milk in India, not for fiber. In few parts of India, the goat which are naturally evolved, like places like Kashmir, so they give fiber. 13%, 5% of meat is from goat in India. Goat meat contributes to total milk production of India. Is the contribution is 13.53%, and 3% of all India milk is from goat. So these 2 figures, they indicate that the goats are reared majorly for meat and milk in India. And in India, goat is considered as poor man's cow also. So this is how the goat represents in the milk contribution in India. Goat contributes to 13.53% meat share also. So whatever the breed it may be, whether it is a milk breed or milk and meat breed or wool and meat breed, a common food product available from all goat breeds is meat. That is, the meat of goat is called as chavan. And fiber share from goat is of less significance. So the major economic activity of goat farmers is sale of farm-born kids. This is the major economic activity, and the major source of income is by sale of kids. The sale of kids by whatever they are born in the farm, either for slaughter or for breeding. The females are sold for breeding and the males are sold for slaughter in general. But the profits depends on number of kids sold. So the number of kids sold per each doe per breeding cycle is very, very important, and that plays major role in the net income of goat farming. So how many kits are to be sold actually? So one should be able to sell 160 kits per every 100 goat breeders in one breeding cycle. So twinning is taken into consideration. So I have mentioned it as medium sized breeds. In large sized breeds, twinning is not so common. Only 60 to 65% twinning will be there. And one breeding cycle means the length of the breeding cycle is considered as 8 months. Animal will be in pregnancy for 5 months period, and it will be in lactation for 2 months, and for another 1 month it will regenerate itself for next conception. So the breeding cycle length is taken as 8 months. So in a period of 8 months, out of 100 goat breeders, one should be able to sell 160 kits. This is the minimum number. Then how it is calculated in fact? So if a farmer owns 100 goat, the minimum percentage consumption is taken as 90%. This is minimum. If the consumption percent is high, one will be able to sell more number of kits. And the born are taken as twins, that is out of 90, we will get 180 kits. And mortality from birth to sale is considered as 5% maximum. And mortality for adults also considered as 5%. Excluding the 10% mortality out of 180, the survived should be 162 from birth to sale. So this is taken as 1.6 sales per doe per cycle. But what is the present status in the field? It is almost 20 to 30% less than the standards. Only 110 to 100 kids per every 100 goat breeders in one breeding cycle, as against 160. What are the reasons for this? Why the farm productivity is so poor in India? There are many reasons for this. One of the reason is illness. In the beginning slides, I explained what is illness. Illness means disease or ill health. The reason for illness is poor or neglected or no health management. Illness is due to neglected or poor or no health management. Then what are the other factors which influences farm productivity? Breed also plays important role in deciding the farm productivity. And feed, this is another important factor. Health, this is what about we are going to discuss today. And management also plays important. These four are the key factors which influences farm productivity. So what happens if the flock suffers with illness? Illness means maybe disease or disorders. Flock suffers with mortality. If they are suffering with the disease, and if they are not identified in time, and if they are not treated properly, there will be mortality. If any animal survives with the treatment given, there may be production loss for that particular period, or even after survival also, it may not be able to give the same type of reproduction performance after surviving from the disease. And there will be extra expenditure on treatment. So this is the money involved in treating the animal. And even after that, if the animal has not recovered fully, and if it is still sick, and if it is not performing well, we need to cull the animal forcibly for low price. So how the production cost is increased in fact? See, these are the factors which are considered to calculate the production cost. Mother's feed cost, lamb feed cost, mortality, labor cost, medicines cost. So whatever the feed cost incurred on the lamb or mother which died due to mortality will be added to the production cost. So the production cost is hiked. And the cost involved in treating the animal, treating the sick animal for curative treatment, So it increases the production cost. So these are the three factors which influences farm income. One is farm productivity. So regarding this, I explained in the beginning slide, the number of skids sold per each animal is the farm productivity in case of goat, which are maintained for meat production. The farm income is influenced by production cost also. If the production cost is hiked or if it is increased, there will be less income. And sale price of lambs is another important factor. And if there is forced culling, so the sale price will be less. So it will also influence the farm income. So what will be the impact of low productivity? So the farmer is not gaining profits as much as prescribed. They are losing around 15 to 25% of profits. So the farming is becoming unsustainable. And the non-traditional new entrepreneurs, they are silently leaving the farming. So these are the two indications of impact of low productivity. So what should be done? Then what is the solution? See, protecting goats from illness with health management. Protecting the goats from illness with health management is very important factor to get optimum flock productivity. So there are many other reasons also. In the beginning slide, I explained that breed, feed, and management also plays key role in deciding the productivity, but illness is the major reason for low flock productivity. And what is this health management? Health management means maintenance of the status or improvement of the health. See, prevention control is the major thing involved in health management, and it is part of goat farming. Basically, one should understand that health management starts with selection of animals, not just by treating the sick animals. It starts with the selection of new animals. This is the place from where the health management is to be taken up, and it is continued with transport of new entries. We need to take sufficient required care while transporting the animals also, and it continues with the new births, and it continues with the foundation stock, and it ends with the slaughter of the animal, not by sale of the animal. It ends with the slaughter of the animal. So I will be explaining about this, the care to be taken at the time of selection, at the time of transport, at the time of birth. What are the components of health management? See, there are three components. One is prevention, another is cure, the third point is culling. These three are the major components of health management. Just let us understand what is prevention and what is cure. Prevention is taking care or medicine before the disease develops. And cure means use of medicines for treatment after exhibiting the symptoms or lesions. This is very simple to understand because many of you are veterinarians and who are well versed with these two terms. And there is another term need to understand, that is prophylaxis. It is also a preventive type of measure, but it is taking a medicine before the expected disease develops, like supplementation of vitamin E on day of birth. See, there is every possibility of suffering with E. coli in the first 7 days life of the newborn. So supplementation of vitamin A is very much required and recommended. So expecting a disease from E. coli, we need to supplement vitamin A, though that's the reason we call it as prophylaxis. And there is a need to use antibiotic in first week of life to prevent scores and pneumonia. This is like what we did in poultry. And strategic use of coccidiostats in cream-feed from 15th day. This also comes under prophylaxis. See the three components of health management, that is preventive healthcare, cure and culling. Preventive healthcare is applicable to entire head. This is very, very important point. Preventive healthcare is applicable to entire head, whereas curative healthcare is applicable for sick and ailing only. And culling is applicable for carriers or chronic ill cases and for those which are uncured even after treatment. So these three components, they are applicable to different kind of status of the firm. Now let us talk about the preventive healthcare. We all know that prevention is always better than cure. This is very much applicable to all type of livestock farming, dairy, poultry, piggery, sheep farming. Likewise in goat farming also, prevention is always better than cure. The best way to deal with a health problem is prevent it from occurring. Don't try to treat the diseased animal, you try to prevent it from happening in the farm. Majorly, illness is due to neglected preventive health management. Here and after, I will be using the term preventive health care, PHC. PHC includes avoiding predisposing reasons. We all know very well that because of certain predisposing reasons, goat suffers more or frequently with certain diseases and infestations. So preventive healthcare includes avoiding predisposing reasons and eliminating the source of infection and building herd immunity. So preventive healthcare means avoiding predisposing reasons, eliminating source of infection and building herd immunity. Then we need to understand what type of sources are there which creates illness and what type of predisposing reasons. These are the general predisposing reasons, not disease specific. For each disease, there are different sources and different predisposing reasons, but here I am giving a list of general sources of illness. Imbalanced ration, it leads to illness. Undernutrition also leads to illness. Infected soil, it is the source of illness. Infected air, contaminated water, contaminated feed, the carrier animal and ailing animals. All these are the sources of illness. And the predisposing reasons are lack of natural passive immunity, which is received through the colostrum. The stress and starvation, another predisposing reason. Overcrowding, poor hygiene and sanitation, poor biosecurity, extreme weather, and neglected preventive health care. So all these are the predisposing reasons for illness. So now we will start with the selection of new animals, the preventive health management, which is to be taken at the time of selection of new animals and at the time of transport. We all know that the animals which are procured from a particular place are transported to the farm from a different location. They are transported by vehicles only. But at the time of procuring the animals itself, we need to procure only healthy animals. If at all by any chance, if we purchase any animal which is a sick animal or which is a carrier animal, which is an ailing animal, it will become the source of infection in the farm. So the preventive healthcare starts at the time of selection of animals. You procure physically healthy looking animals. And you need to consider all the other selection parameters also like age, sex, BCS. And you procure identified required breeds only. So if you want to keep only meat breeds, you try to procure only meat breeds, because if you procure a crossbreed or some other breed, or if you procure out of 110 breeds which belong to other type of production type, so your flock productivity will be affected. So the farm income majorly depends on flock productivity only, or farm productivity. So you need to procure only identified breeds. And as Dr. Bikanesar told in the introduction slides, in the introduction of this webinar, procure from similar agroclimatic conditions only. Then what are the physical health signs? So here I have given a list of physical health signs. The animal should be alert and active. And in case of goat, the tail should point upwards. In case of sheep, it is pointed downwards. This is the best indication of healthiness of an goat. And skin infections, they are visible. And no lameness should be there, maybe suffering with foot rot. There should be no nasal discharges, maybe suffering with respiratory infection or OOS. Should not suffer with cough when you go there to select the animal, they should not make any cough. No diarrhea, maybe suffering with parasitic gastroenteritis or maybe an ailing animal like any other infection, enteric infection. And it should be ruminating. Rumination is another clear indication of healthiness. And the feces should be granular type. And there should be no presence of any arthropods on the body like ticks, mites, or lice. These are physical health signs, not clinical health signs. And these are the breeds which are recognized on different agroclimatic regions. See, we have north temperate region, northwestern arid and semi-arid, south peninsular region, and eastern region. So if any person wants to keep goat or wants to purchase goat, you please try to procure the animals of the same agroclimatic region. So this helps in better adaptability and better flock productivity. So this is also one type of preventive health care. So there are 7 meat breeds in South India. So if a person wants to purchase meat breeds in South India, they can procure for any part of South. And there are 26 breeds available in North India. Out of 26, 15 are milk breeds. So one can appreciate the importance of milk breeds which are reared in North India. And these 26 breeds, they represents 82% of goat population in India. Next, after selection, the preventive healthcare measures to be taken at transportation. We need to follow animal welfare rules with regard to feeding, watering, spacing, ventilation, etc. Because in every district headquarters, there are SPCS, Societies for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. And while transporting the animals, there is every chance if a person who is establishing a farm in Kerala or Tamil Nadu, and if he is bringing the animals from a place like Rajasthan or Gujarat, so he may face the problem. So always try to follow the animal welfare rules. This is one of the important preventive healthcare measures. Are if by any case, if the vehicle is stalled or vehicle is stopped, so animals will suffer with stress and starvation. It may lead to mortality and other complications. And this is the new section which was inserted in 2016 under Central Motor Vehicle Rules 125E. This is inserted after 125D. So we need to use specially partitioned vehicles only and use the vehicles which are specially registered for animal transport only. So this is a very important point to be noted while transporting the animals. The space to be provided in each vehicle is 0.3 square meters for the animals which are weighing around 40 kg, more than 40 kg. And if they are weighing less than 20 kg, it is 0.16 square meters. So Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, one can visit their website. So these details are available. And while transportation, we need to minimize the stress and starvation. In the beginning slides, I was telling that stress and starvation it is one of the predisposing reasons for illness. So we need to minimize the stress and starvation. This is very, very important to prevent shipping fever. See, many of you may be of maybe having a little bit experience about shipping fever. So once the animals are procured, so they will be all right for first 7 to 10 days, and after 10 days they'll start sneezing, coughing, diarrhea, and all these symptoms will be noticed 10 days after arriving into the farm. Shipping fever is a mixed type of infection. It is just because of stress and starvation. It is neither bacterial nor viral. It is a combination of bacterial and viral. So this is to be prevented. So I have noticed several bad experiences from different kind of farmers from different regions. So in the first 1 month itself, they lost around 20 to 30% of the animals which are brought from different parts. It is just because of shipping. So we need to minimize the travel duration also. Not to travel continuously for more than 6 to 8 hours. If the travel is more than for 6 to 8 hours, you need to unload them and give them rest, give them sufficient water, give them sufficient food, and again plan to travel in cool hours, that is in night cool hours, and ensure goat fitness to travel. If the goat which you have procured is not fit for travel, so it may die during the transport itself, and it is a direct capital loss to the entrepreneur. And you need to carry required certificates issued by local authority like age and health and valuation, fit to travel transport certificate. And this point, preloading medication is very, very important point. So this, I leave it to the discretion of the local veterinarians. But when you are carrying the animals from a far distant place, and if they are traveling for more than 72 hours, because the general habit of South Indian entrepreneurs who wants to start a new farm, they always prefer to procure animals from Rajasthan. That is, they generally prefer Sirohi or beetle from Punjab or Sojat breed. So while bringing the animals, see, we know very well that the animals are not hampered of travel in the vehicles. They always go for grazing by walk only. So once they are transported, and first time when they are traveling in a vehicle with a speed of 50 to 60 kilometers, and for a period of 2 to 3 days, there is every possibility of suffering with eosinophilia and pneumonia. So preloading medication is very, very important point. And at the time of unloading also, you try to ensure that there is sufficient unloading facility. So this is to prevent injury and suffering while unloading the animals. And we need to keep one person in the animals carrier to watch for piling up. See, when the transport vehicle takes turnings or when it jumps over the speed breakers, there is every chance of piling up. So if proper care is not given on transport, few may die or suffer with injuries like fractures, or few may die. This will be the direct capital loss. So this is to be prevented. So this also comes under preventive healthcare. So quarantine, we all know very well. So observation, treatment, and culling, these are the 3 points of quarantine. And post-arrival care, after arriving into the farm, you should not offer any type of feed or fodder. This is very, very important point. And you can offer glucose plus vitamin added drinking water. Otherwise, animal will suffer with loose motions. So check for injuries or illness and isolate and treat accordingly. If you do not check for injuries or illness, it may lead to mortality in coming 2 to 3 days, and you need to isolate them and treat them accordingly. Post-arrival care is one important part of preventive health care. So health management means, in the beginning slides, I told that it is maintenance and dealing with the disease. So that is the reason I am trying to cover starting from the selection of animals and transport. So the health management starts with new births also. So once the animals have arrived into the farm, So the health management should start with the newborn kids. The first foremost important thing is disinfection of navel cord after birth. So it is to be disinfected with tincture iodine, and it should be ligated. I need not explain the procedure. And this is very, very important. Otherwise, there is every chance of getting infection, and animal may die within first 7 to 10 days. And warm shelters after naval disinfection. Warm shelters are to be provided for the newborn, otherwise it may suffer with hypothermia. Hypothermia is a major factor of mortality in winter in kids. So warm shelters are to be provided. The most third important factor is colostrum feeding. It is the first milk after delivery and it is highly nutritious. On consumption of colostrum, the body becomes warmth. So this is very, very important for the newly born kid. Otherwise, it will suffer with hypothermia. And we all know very well that colostrum contains antibodies, and they are very vital to help protect the disease. And it is first vitamin E source and rich in iron, and it acts as laxative also. So this formula is to be remembered by everyone: 3Q plus H. Feed quickly, giving colostrum and helping the kid to drink colostrum from the mothers within first 15 to 30 minutes is very, very important. And feed sufficient quantity. The second key is feed sufficient quantity. And feed quality colostrum. If you are offering artificial colostrum, you try to feed colostrum which is of quality, and it should be in hygienic colostrum. The kid is unable to suck first milk from the mother. The person who is present in the farm should guide or should assist the kid to drink milk from the mother. The antibody absorption is too high in first 2 hours of after birth. The antibodies which are present in colostrum, they are absorbed very well in the first 2 hours after birth. That is the reason we need to feed colostrum quickly. And 24 hours after birth, the absorption of antibodies which are present in the milk will be reduced. But what type of antibodies a kid receives from the mother? One need to understand this, because if the mothers are not vaccinated against any disease like ET or HS, will the kid receive the antibodies related to ET and HS? No. The type of antibodies the colostrum contains depend on the antigens to which the Eve or doe was exposed to by vaccination. Only those antibodies which are present in the mothers at the time of delivery only will be passed on to the kid. This is very, very important. Or if the mother acquires anything, any type of antibody by suffering with the disease, those antibodies also passed on to the kid. So this is the reason the breeders should be vaccinated against ET, that is Clostridium perfringens, the most dangerous bacteria which causes high mortality in the weaning stage, and tetanus and pachyderlosis, that is HS. Colostrum is like gold. If it is given in the first 2 hours of life, it will be like full recharge. And by seeing this picture, one can understand the importance of feeding colostrum. And what are the other preventive healthcare measures to be taken to save the life of newborn? You need to give injection TT on the day of birth. If the mothers are not vaccinated against TT, then you need to give it on the day of the birth. Otherwise, you need not give it on the day of birth. And oral vitamin A supplementation, this is to prevent the possible mortality which may happen due to E. coli infection. Vitamin A is a fat soluble vitamin. We know very well that even if it is given excess quantity, it will be stored in the liver and which will be utilized in future course whenever there is a need of vitamin A for the body. And prophylactic use of oral antibiotic. This is another important point because the newborn, when it is exposed to the environment, once it comes out of the uterus, so it is exposed to certain type of polluted weather, and even the adherent kids, they are also infected. So we need to give one prophylactic oral antibiotic. Oxytetracycline is the best. All these are preventive healthcare measures. And we need to provide CREEF feed. CREEF feed, this is for the best average daily gain, because average daily gain is one of the parameters which indicates farm productivity. And we need to add coccidiostats with the CREEF feed. See, coccidiosis is a disease which is seen mostly in weaned lambs and in intensive farming. So I am repeating this word. This is coccidiosis is the disease which is seen in weaned lambs between 3 to 6 months of age. That it is seen mostly in intensive farming and stall feeding. So we need to use coccidiostat. And for the development of the rumen, you need to offer tender leaves also, because we have to take up other preventive healthcare measures after 45 days of life. If the rumen is not developed properly, we cannot give first deworming and we cannot go for first vaccination. So we need to offer tender leaves. So in pre-ruminant stage, so which lost from 0 to 45 days of life, no deworming is to be done, no vaccination is to be done. And here is a chart of weaning kid. So I have tried to incorporate all whatever we have discussed in the previous slides into one single slide. On the day of birth, naval cord disinfection, feeding colostrum within 30 minutes, injection TT vitamin A supplementation. 2nd to 7th day, oxy powder orally 5 mg per kg body weight. From 15th day, feeding tender leaves and CREEF feed with coccidiostat. From 60th day, we can start giving TMR. This is the choice of the farmer. So I prefer and I advise to give TMR only. You can take a first deworming and ET and HS vaccination. These are the first two vaccines to be inoculated to the kid. ET should be the first priority, because in intensive farming, we will be offering highly nutritious feed and fodder. So there is every possibility of getting enterotoxemia, that is overeating disease, which we know that it is because of higher concentration of glucose in the blood. And we need to offer multivitamin syrup. And all above, from day of birth to 60th day, we need to provide warm shelters, and hygiene is to be maintained, and sanitation and biosecurity, these are very, very important. So here I'm giving this is one suggested CREEF feed formula. The DCP should be not less than 18% and TDN should be not less than 75%. So we know very well that TDN plays important role. So if the TDN percentage high, more quantity or higher quantity of nutrients will be absorbed into the body, or else they will be passed as manure. So the major components of CREEF feed are grain, brains, cake. You can add molasses if they are available. Otherwise, you can add broken pulse, also reducing the cake percentage, and mineral mixture and salt. And in the beginning slides, as I told, the health management starts with selection of animals, starts with transportation, starts with birth of the newborn. Now it is to be continued with the foundation stock. What is foundation stock? They are nothing but breeders. In case of goat breeding farm, they are breeders. In case of ram lamb fattening unit, they are ram lambs or bucklings. So when the animals are taken care at the time of selection and taken care at the time of transportation and taken care, all the newborns are taken care at the time of birthing. but still the health management should be continued with the foundation stock, because this is called as foundation stock, and they are the mini moving manufacturing units. So they consume roughages which are not useful to the human beings, and they produce meat and milk which is useful for the human. So this is the chart. This preventive healthcare charts from pre-delivery. So we call it as pre-delivery care. We need to provide balanced nutrition. We need to provide vaccination against ET and TT and HS and other diseases. Until unless we vaccinate the mother against diseases, no antibody will be passed on to the kid through colostrum. So you need to use a coccidiostat because all adults are the carriers and source of infection for coccidiosis disease for the weaned lambs. Mothers are the carriers. So we need to use coccidiostat before delivery, and proper housing. The first speaker of today's session explained very well about this housing. So I will be explaining a little bit about housing and hygienic delivery pen. These are the preventive healthcare measures to be taken at the time of pre-delivery stage. And post-delivery also, we need to provide balanced nutrition. This is very, very important. Either at pre-delivery stage or post-delivery stage, balanced nutrition is important. And warm and hygienic mother newborn pen. So we keep newborns with the mothers for first 72 hours. So that mother newborn should be warm and hygienic. Why we keep kid along with mother for the first 72 hours? Because we know that antibodies are present in the milk of first 3 days, and antibodies are more in the first 24 hours of the first milk, and later on they start gradually decreasing. This is called a transition phase, that is colostrum to natural milk transition phase. So there is every possibility of presence of antibodies in the first 72 hours. So this is the reason to make the kid to drink more colostrum from the mothers. We keep the kid along with the mother. So that pen should be warm and hygienic, and proper housing is to be provided for the mother. And again, coccidiostat is to be continued post delivery also, because till weaning there is every possibility of acquiring disease from the mothers. And periodical vaccination another important prevent healthcare measure. Housing. So housing should protect the goats from cold, should protect the goats from rain, should protect the goats from summer. The first speaker explained very well that goat never demands very hi-fi type of sheds. They are comfortable with what they are, but they are to be protected against extreme weathers. Extreme weathers are one of the predisposing reasons for illness. So to avoid the predisposing reasons, which is part of preventive healthcare, this housing is very much required. And we need to have separate housing for adults and separate for weaned animals, because their maintenance, feeding and everything will be different. And there should be warm housing for newborn. This I explained in the beginning, not to make it suffer with hypothermia. There should be proper spacing. Regarding this spacing, the first speaker has explained very well. And proper ventilation. If the spacing is not proper and if they are overcrowded, overcrowding is one of the predisposing reasons for illness. In the beginning slides, it was explained. So proper spacing is to be followed, and proper aeration is very, very important factor. Even polluted air will become a source of infection for the disease. And flooring should be dry and clean, whether it is a moram type or whether it is a brick type, whether it is of wooden flooring type, whatever the type of flooring it may be, it should be always dry and clean. So here I am given few pictures. The flooring should not be like this because this becomes a source of infection. As we are discussing only about health management, this point is very, very important. And it should be always neat and clean like this. And it need not be in a hi-fi shade. It can be a normal type of shade. And there should be proper open ventilation. Animals are to be exposed to vitamin D also. This is very, very important. Never keep animals always in the shade. Allow the animals to sit out or allow them to behave on their own. If they want to stay in the shed, you allow them in the shed, or if they want to go outside, allow them to go outside. Keep the doors open between the shaded area and the open area. And there should be proper shelters for this. And elevated sheds are not mandatory for adults. Elevated sheds are not mandatory for adults. Our first speakers are also explained this. And if one can afford, they can have elevated shed for kids. So this helps them to protect from arthropods. This helps them to protect themselves from licking of the soil. And whatever the infections they receive during the weaning stage, that is from soil only. So if elevated shed can be provided for the kids, it will be fine and better. We can minimize certain predisposing reasons and source of infection. And after that, nutrition plays very, very important role. After housing, nutrition plays very, very important role. Pre-delivery and post-delivery. We are discussing about the preventive healthcare measures to be taken against dose. Where we are feeding is not important. What we are feeding is very, very important. And the feed, whatever we are offering, should be palatable, and no animal should stay outside the feeder when we offer the feed and fodder. If any animal is moving away from the feeder, it indicates that either it is sick or the feed and fodder what is offered is not palatable. So you can appreciate by seeing these pictures, no animal is out of the feeder. So this indicates that the feed and fodder, whatever is offered, is very good quality and good type of feed. And what is meaning of a balanced ration? It is not that just you offer any type of feed and fodder which fulfills the stomach of the animal. So whatever you offer, it should be a balanced ration. Ration means the quantity of feed and fodder offered in one particular day, that is in 24 hours of period, that is called ration. A feed that provides all nutrients. So nutrients, we know very well that carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals, and water. These are the 6 nutrients. And a feed that provides all nutrients in required quantity, because the requirement will be different for adults and different for pregnant and different for lactating and different for kids. It is not all the same type of quantity required by all physiological status of the animal. So a feed that provides all nutrients in required quantity and proportions needed for growth, needed for maintenance, needed for lactation, needed for lactation. This is called balanced ration. And it should contain legumes and non-legume roughages. Because it is a ruminant animal, we need to provide roughages, and that roughage portions contain legumes and non-legumes, and also concentrate feed, because the rumen has a limited capacity to accommodate legume and non-legume content, because legumes and non-legumes they are bulky in nature. So we need to provide concentrate feed what we do in dairy farming, and they should meet all feeding standards. And out of my experience, I prefer to offer dry medicated TMR. So if any participants, if he wants to have any clarifications on this, I will be giving my mobile number at the end of the PPT. They can contact me or they can take clarifications. See, in open grazing system, The animals always suffers with insufficient food and imbalanced food. They don't get both type of legumes when they go out for grazing. So they get only non-legume type of feed and fodder. And majority of sheep are reared in open grazing system in India. We know very well this. Even if they are maintained in open grazing system, maybe because of the agroclimatic reasons, maybe because of the traditional farming system, traditional habit system, they are overgrazed. This is the major disadvantage in open grazing system. And even the drinking water, see, they get fresh, clean drinking water very rarely. Of course, sheep may prefer water, whatever is pooled also, but goat, they never prefer to drink water from pooled sources. They always prefer to drink running water only. See, this clearly explains the density of goat per square kilometer area. See, I have given the example of Telangana state because I know the geographical area of Telangana state compared with India. See, both sheep and goat, if they are distributed in India among entire geographical area, we can keep 68 sheep and goat in 1 square kilometer geographical area. But whereas in Telangana, it is 174, almost 3 times higher. But what we tell scientifically, we need to allow only 5 to 6 animals to graze in 1 square kilometer area. This indicates that they are overgrazed and they are more exposed. They are more exposed to infections and more exposed to the infected feed. Maybe because of decreasing grazing lands. So they always suffers with malnutrition and insufficient nutrition. So in open grazing, they always suffer with imbalanced and insufficient nutrition. I am trying to explain in only one single chart. And they are more exposed to infectious disease because no distance is maintained between two goat. So if they are taken to grazing at the rate of 5 to 6 goat per 1 square kilometer area, there will be a lot of distance between two animals. But when they are densified in a particular area, crossing more than 50 animals per square kilometer area, so the distance maintained between two animals is very less. So they are exposed to the infectious disease. Healthy animals are more exposed to the ailing animals. Repeated infestation with worms in open grazing system, this is the major problem. And because of above 3, they always undergo stress. And all these factors leads to illness. So this is the reason we need to take care of balanced nutrition. We need to provide sufficient nutrition. And we need to prevent exposure to infectious disease. And we need to take care of worm load. And finally, the stress is to be reduced, with which we can avoid illness among goat. If we can avoid illness among the goat, the flock productivity will be normal. So they will be able to sell 160 kits per each 100 breeders per each breeding cycle, and they will get optimum net income from 100 animals. So it will be profitable. Otherwise, just reverse. So what will happen if feed is not balanced? As I told, the farm product will be lowered. The probable reasons are low average daily gain. Kids may not be able to get required average daily gain. Abortions, weak births, and mothers may not be able to nurse properly, poor nursing ability, and lowered immunity, increased mortality, and nutritional disorders. Then what are these nutritional disorders? See, many of you must have observed or they must have encountered with all these problems: rickets, polioencephalomalacia, milk fever, hoof problems, majorly because of zinc and sulfur deficiency, and alopecia, abortions due to negative energy balance. This is the common complaint which is presented to the veterinary hospitals by the local shepherds. And SARA, subacute ruminal acidosis, urinary calculi in case of male goat, the difficulty at delivery due to negative energy balance, and poor productivity. Then what is the thumb rule for balanced feeding? See, balanced feeding or balanced ration should contain three components. One is non-legume roughage, second component legume roughage, third one is concentrate feed. In open grazing system, we do not offer these two, legume roughage and concentrate feed. That is the reason the inter kidding period is high, or sometimes even if it is less, there will be poor lactation from the mothers. Because of poor lactation from the mothers, kids are weaned from the mothers within first 30 days. So there will be very less average daily gain. So it leads to poor immunity, and they may not be able to acquire sufficient antibodies also from the mother. So these three components should be there in a balanced ration. Preferably non-legumes should be either dry or green. The less the moisture, it will be the better. Non-legume roughages, the less the moisture, it will be the better. Not to offer paragrass or the or Napier grass, which contains high moisture. Not more succulent non-legume roughages are not advised in goat farming. But legume roughages should be in green. See, please note this point: legume roughages should be green, and concentrate feed. Non-legume roughage percent, this can be offered up to 2% of the body weight, and there is no limit to offer. It can be given ad libitum, but there will be no adverse reactions even if the animal consumes non-legume roughage. This is what happens in open grazing system. Whatever they get only non-legume roughage. So for legume roughages, there is limit. It should not exceed 1% of the body weight, or the important point is not more than 40% of total dry matter which is consumed from the roughage source. Roughage means both non-legume and legume. And concentrate should not be not less than 0.5% and should not be not more than 1.5% of the body weight of the animal, whether it is a kid or an adult or anything. And the most important point is the dry matter which is available for concentrate feed should not exceed 40% of the total dry matter intake. So these PowerPoint will be shared to the organizers, and I think this will be made available in their YouTube channel or whatever the platform available. So if anyone is interested to have this PPT, they can contact me also. And these two are very, very important. See, prevention of urinary calculi when we are maintaining bucklings in intensive farming. When we are maintaining bucklings in intensive farming for Eid purpose, there is every possibility of formation of urinary calculi. So this can be prevented. This can be prevented by adding ammonium chloride at the rate of 0.1% or about 5 grams per head per day. And even the subacute ruminal acidosis and laminitis. Subacute ruminal acidosis and laminitis, these two also can be controlled by adding sodium bicarbonate at the rate of 0.5% or about 5 grams per head per day. And for controlling worms, worms means helminths means internal parasites. Internal parasites are known as helminths, and all the helminths are called as worms. You can add copper sulfate at the rate of 200 mg per head or at the rate of 50 grams per quintal. So this will act as an traditional dewormer. For intensive farmers, this is the best dewormer. They need not go for deworming periodically. So for controlling aflatoxins, because I suggested TMR, so TMR is to be prepared once in 3 or 4 days or once in a week. So not to suffer with aflatoxins, you can add toxin binders. This is the one of the most effective method. Even the copper sulfate also acts as an antitoxin. Then this is the formula of concentrate feed for adults. In the earlier sets, I have given the formula for creep feed. The same ingredients are used for making concentrate for adults also. One is grain. And these are the same concentrates which are used for preparing concentrate feed for dairy animals and which are used for preparing concentrate for piggery and poultry also. The major portion will be from cereal source, that is energy source, either cereal grains or brands. These two are protein sources. It should not exceed 40% of the total, and mineral mixture and salt. And after balanced feeding, drinking water is very, very important. So drinking water is one source of infection. And drinking water is a major nutrient. Animal may not get energy or proteins or vitamins from drinking water or fats from drinking water, but drinking water is a major constant of the daily ration. Even if 5% of depletion of drinking water may lead to dehydration, and in summer if it exceeds 10%, it may cause death of the animal also. So drinking water, not water. One need to note the term that we call it as drinking water. So whatever the water we offer, it should be a drinkable water, and how we are offering is not important. What we are offering is important in case of water also. You can offer by water by keeping in tubs like this. And the source of drinking water should be checked periodically for physical analysis, for chemical analysis, and for bacteriological test. This should be done once in a quarter or at least once in 6 months. If the water contains E. coli in non-permissible level, it will cause death in the kids. We don't understand what is the source with which the animals are suffering. But this is to be tested frequently. And if it is not fit bacteriologically, particularly E. coli, it should not be allowed. And you need to have the water tested for chemical contamination also. These are the specifications for water. The other preventive healthcare measures, other than the measures which we have discussed so far, maintenance of food bus, not much applicable in case of goat, because goat is a clean animal. The hoof structure itself, it will not allow accumulation of mud as it happens in case of sheep. So this is the reason we don't find foot rot in goat, because the accumulation of mud in between the toes is very less, because it always prefers to stay outside and it always prefer to stay in the clean environment. So in case of goat, food baths are not of much importance, and quarantine is very, very important whenever we are bringing new animals. No, we should not bring a infection sourced animal. So we need to keep them under quarantine and hygiene. These are the other farm management techniques: sanitation, disinfection, and biosecurity. And hygiene and sanitation, we know very well that it is nothing but cleanliness of the shed and cleanliness of the equipment and keeping the shed dry. The first speaker explained the need of constructing the shed in east-west direction and the need of keeping the quarantine in the northeastern part of the shed, because this type of direction helps the floor of the shed to become dry itself. It will be exposed to the sun rays, and disinfection is another important part. One need not get confused with hygiene, sanitation, and disinfection. Hygiene is nothing but cleaning. Sanitation is, see, we know the term like sanitary shops or sanitary stores, where the pure drinking water is allowed to enter into the farm and wastewater is allowed to go out of the farm. That is sanitation. Disinfection is the process of elimination of pathogenic microorganisms not spores. Please note this point. It is a process of elimination of most pathogenic organisms, not a total elimination on inanimate objects like feeders, waters, flooring, and shed walls. The common disinfection is sunlight. This is the reason it is always advised to construct the shed in east-west direction, and heat and chemical disinfectants. So we need to allow all movable feeders and empty waters once a day for sun drying. And both movable and immovable feeders and waters are to be chemically disinfected daily. Not only cleaned, they are to be chemically disinfected. And we need to sprinkle dry lime powder, which is part of disinfection, once a week inner and around the shed. This is very, very important point. We need to sprinkle dry lime powder once in a week in and around the shed. This is how to keep the feeders outside for a while before offering the feed and fodder to the goat. And we need to sprinkle the lime powder in and around the shed as shown in the picture. And whitewashing of shed walls and open drinking water facility. First speaker explained about this, the need of whitewashing the shed walls and the water facility, because it is like a disinfection and it is a source of calcium also. At least once in a month, or spraying the disinfectant once a week. And if the flooring is made with muram, we need to remove the top 9 to 12 inches of floor soil once in 3 months. If it is a slated flooring elevated shed, this condition is not applicable. And if it is a brick flooring, this condition is not applicable. But if it is a muram flooring, this condition is applicable. We need to remove the top 9 to 12 inches of flooring soil once in 3 months and filling with new gravel. You need to fill with the new gravel or muram after sprinkling dry lime powder. So we know that certain bacteria, like bacteria which causes foot rots, it is in the soil, and Clostridium also in the soil, and E. coli also. So we need to prevent every possible source of infection. This is what is actual health management. It is not that treating the sick animal that is health management. It is avoiding and eliminating every source, every possible source, not to make the head to suffer with illness, is health management. See, this is the picture I have collected from CARG Mathura when I visited the institute in 2014. This is the water trough available at outside the shed. They keep whitewashing. I don't remember the frequency, but it should be done at least once in 15 days. And here see the feeder is cleaned and it is disinfected along with one medicated cotton swab or cotton cloth. The next important point is biosecurity. Biosecurity means keeping illness out of a facility. Facility means the farm. And it is a set of preventive measures. Biosecurity is not one preventive measure. It is a set of preventive measures designed to reduce the risk of transmission of infectious disease. Footpath is one set of biosecurity, and restricting the traffic in and out. We should not allow visitors from outside, and we should not allow vehicles to go out and in. So maintaining closed flocks. So restricting traffic in and out itself indicates that it is a closed flock, and we need to isolate. Quarantine is also these days considered as part of biosecurity. So we need not specially discuss about quarantine, but I have inserted one slide just to explain what is quarantine. Quarantine is a place of isolation. Quarantine is a place. It is a place of isolation in which newly purchased animals are placed for 30 days, and they are observed for abnormal health condition. If any abnormality is noticed, again they are isolated and they are treated They are observed. If they are not cured, they are culled. And this is another important point. Try to keep the manure pit as far as possible from the animal shed, because this will become a source of arthropods. For the development of arthropods, this will become a source. And if it is permeable to the water, if the manure pit is permeable to the water, it will become a source of another bacterial infection also. So try to keep the manure pit as far away as possible from the manure shed. This is part of preventive healthcare measure, and healthcare measures are all preventive healthcare measures are part of health management. Disposal of dead animals. So in the beginning slides, when I was explaining about flock productivity, I said the maximum allowed mortality in kids from birth to sale is 5%. So if 100 kids are born, there is every possibility, and we can also accept, it is an accepted mortality. So whatever the mortality happens within that accepted mortality, so that animal should not be opened without consulting the local vet. It is the only local veterinarian who can decide whether it should be opened or it should be buried. And burial is always advised rather than incineration. And a pit of 3 to 4 feet deep hole should be required. It is required for disposal of for burial of the dead animal. And in the pit, after keeping the dead animal, at least 2-inch thickness soil is to be covered to close the pit. So this picture, it indicates that there is a need to cover the pit with 2-inch thickness soil, not only on the top, on all sides of the animal. And before covering it with soil, we need to sprinkle 5 to 6 kgs of salt or lime around the animal. And it must be at least 100 yards from a well. If there is a well existing nearby the pit where we are going to bury the dead animal, see that it is at least 100 yards away from the existing well, and no other water surface should be contaminated with the dead animals. Then this is building acquired active immunity. So far we have discussed about nutrition, about housing, about care of the kid, and sanitation, hygiene, biosecurity, and disposal of dead animals, and keeping the manure pit away from the shed. Now the discussion is about creating acquired immunity among the head. Then what is immunity? So I need not explain, it is self-explanatory. There are 2 types of immunity. One is active immunity, another is passive immunity. Active immunity is of 2 types. One is natural active immunity, which is acquired by contracting the disease. If the animal suffers with the disease and if it is recovered from that particular disease, so it will have some natural immunity. And this is acquired active immunity by vaccination. So this is important preventive healthcare measures about which we are going to discuss in the coming slides. I am going to explain you about this acquired active immunity building. And we know very well that natural passive immunity is acquired through colostrum. So this part already covered. So now I am going to explain you about the immunity which builds with the vaccination. So vaccination is like risk management. It provides specific active immunity for a specific period against a specific disease. For example, if you vaccinate against ET, it will give immunity against ET only. And as per the manufacturer's recommendation, it gives immunity for 6 months period only. So that means ET gives specific, ET vaccination gives specific immunity for ET disease only and for a period of 6 months only. If it is a PPR vaccination, the three terms will be different. And it prevents further spread of the disease. Even in outbreak areas also, you can vaccinate following the outbreak protocols. And vaccination builds immune zone. What is building immune zone? So if there are in a village, say I will give you one example. In a village, let us assume that there are 5 flocks with a capacity of 50 to 100 animals. And only one flock is vaccinated against PPR. The rest of the flocks are not vaccinated against PPR. And all these animals are taken to one particular geographical area for grazing. And even if a goat which is suffering with severe PPR is presented into the flock which is already vaccinated against PPR, there is no threat at all. This means immune zone. So that flock is 100% safe. So whatever the flock which is not vaccinated against PPR will suffer with the presence of an ailing animal. But whereas a flock which is vaccinated against a particular disease will not suffer with the presence of the same diseased animal. So these are the 9 vaccines which are available in India: PPR, pox, blue tongue, and FMD. These are the 4 viral vaccines available in India. And 5 types of tetanus vaccine: tetanus, ET against Clostridium perfringens type D only, because we know very well that ET is 4 types. It is caused by Clostridium perfringens type A, type B, type C, type D, but only type D vaccine is available in India. And HS, it is caused by 2 strains, that is Maltosidia and Hemolyticum, Pasteurella maltosidia and Hemolyticum. But there is no vaccine available against Hemolyticum, only vaccine is available for Maltosidia. And Brucellus and Anthrax, these 2 vaccines are available. And here is the vaccination chart, not calendar. Please note this point. It is only a chart. So in January, we need to give PPR and pox. It does not mean that we need to inoculate PPR only in the month of January. This is only a chart. Then why it is written like this? Because PPR and pox are to be inoculated maintaining the cold chain. Even the animal which is going to be inoculated, and the site of the inoculation should be congenial to the vaccination. So if we can inoculate PPR and pox in the month of January, so the entire environment animal also will cooperate for maintaining cold chain. This is the reason it is written like this. And if a farmer starts a flock, a new establishment in the month of July, he need not wait for another 6 months till January comes for conducting PPR vaccination. So this is very, very important. If anybody has any doubt, they can contact me. It is only a suggestive chart, not a general or seasonal calendar. And it is area specific and it is farming specific. See, all the diseases are not prevalent in all the geographical areas of India in the same manner. In few parts of the same state also, it may differ. In few parts, ET prevalence may be more. In few parts, HS prevalence may be more. So it is area specific. You need not follow the chart as it is. And it is farming specific also. If a person is maintaining bucklings for a period of 3 months, and if he procures the bucklings at the age of 3 to 4 months, and if he sells at the age of 6 to 7 months, there is no need to inoculate all these type of vaccines. The first 2 vaccines to be followed are ET and HS, because there is every possibility of getting infection from ET and HS when they are maintained under intensive farming system. That is the reason it is mentioned as farming specific, and it is time specific also. Because once you give ET vaccination, it will not be there in the body for entire life. So it is time specific, and according to the immunity period, it is to be repeated. And it is advised to apply vaccines as per local need and as per prioritization. As per local need and as per prioritization. Prioritization means it depends on epidemic history, and severity of challenge and need and urgency. The important point is it is not just inoculation of all vaccines as per prioritization. Prioritization is very, very important. Prioritization means which vaccine is to be inoculated first time. So even if you conduct vaccination as per prioritization, it should be a successful vaccination, because there is every possibility of failure of vaccination if you do not follow the protocols of cold chain maintenance. So successful vaccination is very, very important. And this is a skilled job. Vaccination is a skilled job. So I advise the farmers, if anyone is attending this webinar, if you are a skilled person, you can take up vaccination, or else better to depend on the local veterinarian. All these what we discussed now all comes under preventive healthcare measures. See, I said in the beginning slides, there are three parts of health management. One is preventive measures. Second one is curative. Third one is culling. So we have already covered preventive healthcare in the previous slides. Now I will explain about curative healthcare. Curative healthcare is taking medicine or giving medicine after exhibition of symptoms. So the best to deal with a disease, if cannot be prevented, prevention is always better. But in case if it could not be prevented, the best to deal with a disease is treating the animal. And if we cannot treat the animal, cull the animal. So the other two parts of health management, treating and culling. And there are many diseases for which vaccines are not available. As vaccines are not available for these diseases, we cannot prevent them. But what we can do is we can prevent the source of infection, and we can prevent the predisposing causes. Still, if there is any failure in preventing the predisposing reasons, and if there is any failure in eliminating the source of infection, if the animal suffers with these diseases like contagious ecthyma, E. coli, HS, which is caused due to hemolytica, ET caused by Purkinje type A, B, C, blue tongue. Blue tongue is, we know that whatever the vaccine available is a pentavalent vaccine. There are around 28 strains, and vaccine is available with 5 strains only. And for foot rot, there is no vaccine. For CCPP, there is no vaccine. And there are hemoprotozoan diseases like anaplasmosis, babesiosis. And for them also, there is no vaccine. And there are skin infections for which are caused by mites. So there is no vaccine available for this disease. So what should we do if the animal contracts any one of the disease? We need to treat the animal. Even after treating, if it do not respond for your treatment, better to cull the animal. Next part is deworming. Deworming is a part of curative treatment, not a preventive measure. See, people keep asking repeatedly, sir, what is the deworming schedule for goat or sheep? There is no such schedule for deworming. You can design a vaccination schedule or even own, because every vaccine has got certain immunity period. According to the immune period, they are to be repeated as long as the animals are maintained in the shed. For deworming, there is no such schedule. Deworming is a need-based one. Until unless the animal suffers with internal worms, there is no need to do deworming. See, I have seen few farms which are maintained under stall feeding, where they have not given deworming in the last 3-4 years, even once also. So if any veterinarian who is attending this webinar, if he belongs to Rajasthan area, he may recollect that I think there they recommend deworming once in a year or twice in a year, but whereas in a place like Telangana and AP, we recommend 4 times. Even government itself supplying the deworming medicines at free of cost to all the shepherds in AP and Telangana for minimum 3 times in a year, and sometimes it may be 4 times also. Because it all depends on the exposure, and it all depends on the worm load only. EPG count is very, very important. So as majority of the participants are veterinarians, I am not going into detail egg per gram. And it is farming specific. As I told, in opening grazing system only, there is every chance of getting repeated reinfestation with the worms. And it depends on agroclimatic conditions that I have given one example of Rajasthan. But the periodical fecal testing of 10% of polluted sample is mandatory, even if they are maintained in stall feeding, particularly before taking up vaccination, because worm load leads to failure of vaccination. Don't take it as granted that the animals are safe. They are not suffering with worms. Always do test the feces for presence of eggs. And choice drug is to be used as per the veterinarian's advice. Don't try to keep changing the medicine as it is sold by many people. So you test the fecal sample and exactly decide what type of worms are present in the flock, and you take the advice from the local veterinarian and he will advise the drug of choice. And better to use traditional dewormers. In the beginning slides, while explaining about the balanced nutrition, I explained about the copper sulfate. If it can be used at a rate of 200 mg per each animal, so there is no need of, I don't say there is no need, but the risk will be minimized. Another important point is control of arthropods. So by giving vaccination, we can control the diseases which are caused by virus and bacteria, but not the infestation of arthropods. So ticks, mice, lice, fleas, and flies, they are the arthropods. They are called as external parasites also. This is part of curative treatment, not a preventive measure. And there is here also there is no fixed schedule for deticking. It is also need based. If there are, if you find the presence of ticks or mites or lice or fleas, you need to do deticking. And choice of drug is to be decided by as per the vet's advice. It depends on the type of arthropods present. See, whatever the ectoparasites available in the market, like cypermethrin, flumethrin, and amitraj. So all do not act in the same manner against all arthropods. So it depends on the presence of the arthropod, type of presence of the arthropod. We need to select a choice drug. Dipping is the best option for kids because kids are more prone to the infection of ticks and mites. Not lambs. In sheep farming, if we compare the infestation of lice and mites with the kids, so kids are more prone to get infection of lice and ticks and mites. So dipping is the best option. It can be done once in 15 days. And spraying is the best option in adults. In case of goat, in case of sheep dipping is the best one. And can use endectocide injections also, like ivermectin. And spraying on farm environment is mandatory. I'm repeating this. It is a part of health management. Spraying on farm environment is mandatory along with deticking of goats. Whenever you detick the goats, see, just to try to recollect the deticking method which we follow in dairy farming. Whenever the animals are deticked, whenever the animals are sprayed against with the endectocides, we need to spray the same medicine in the shed also. So this is to be followed in goat farming. And for curative treatment, the important point is we need to keep an emergency health kit at the farm. Because if a person establishes a stall feeding farm, naturally it will be away from the town or the village. So like traditional farmers, they are not within the village where they will be having a easy access to the medical shop. So for effective and for immediate treating, see, curative measure is part of health management, and for immediate treatment. To start the treatment immediately, we need to keep some emergency health medicines, health kit as per the advice of the veterinarian. And whatever the treatment is to be given, it should be given with the consultation of an expert vet only. Don't try to give whatever the injection available in the form. Because otherwise, if it is not treated properly, it will become a source of infection for other animals. This is the best example I am trying to give you. And a close observation of it twice a day to identify sick animals is very, very important. This is part of health management. And finally, if you cannot prevent the disease, and if you cannot treat the animal properly, and even after giving treatment, if it is still suffering, and if it for example, if you take a case of foot rot, it will become a carrier and it will become a source of the infection in the farm. So in such case, culling is advised. And we need to remove chronic sick animals. There are certain animals which become sick chronically. So these are to be culled. So this is nothing but forced culling. If you cull the animals forcibly, you need to sell the animals at a lower price. If you sell the animals at a lower price, your farm income will be reduced. If your farm income reduces, the farm will become unsustainable. So there will be every chance of leaving the farming. Finally, before concluding my presentation, whatever the type of breed is reared, whether it is a milk breed or milk or meat breed or a wool breed, and whatever the type of farming may be, whether it is a breeder farm or rearing farm or a fattening farm, and whatever the purpose of farming, a farmer should get optimum flock productivity, which I explained in the beginning slides, and thereby optimum income for profitable farming. And with proper and timely health management or care, one can minimize or avoid certain diseases and disorders. We cannot avoid all the diseases and all the disorders. One should note that health management can minimize or avoid certain diseases and disorders only. And these are breed specific. Preventive healthcare measures are breed specific. If they are wool breeds, the care will be in a different manner. And if they are milk type of breeds, the care will be in a different manner. And they are area specific. They are farming type specific and they are feeding specific. And health management is not one-time activity. It is a continuous one. As long as the breeder animals are present in the farm, as long as they keep delivering the kid, and as long as the new stock is entered into the farm, so this should be continued. There should not be any break in health management practices, and it is mostly a skilled job. One should understand about this. It is a skilled job. And this is end of my PPT. And this is my contact number, 8500404016. This is my mail ID. It is easy to remember, grass2meat @gmail.com. Thank you all the participants, and thank you all the organizers, particularly Professor Dr. Bikane sir, who himself converted me as a speaker. So I thank you one and all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Here are some questions from the audience. Sir, Vikas Chauhan, he wants to ask you that what are the best coccidiostats, and explain what is creep feed. So he has asked 2 questions.
Amprolium is the best coccidiostat. And creep feed means the feed which is offered in pre-ruminant stage. Just you try to collect the children care what we take at our home. in the beginning, while they are taking milk from the mothers, we try to offer them some palatable and easy digestible food. That is nothing but pre-feed.
Okay, sir. Next question is that uh, Anil Kumar from BBC Patna, he wants to ask you that what type of medication should be given before transportation?
Sir, it all depends on the time of travel. So in generally, to prevent the shipping fever and to make the animals not to suffer with eosinophilia, I prefer to give cetirizine and one long-acting antibiotic. So this
Okay.
will help minimizing the risk of shipping fever.
Thank you, sir. The one more question has been asked by Amarpreet Singh Pannu from Punjab, and he wants to know that do normal RBPT antigen is good for testing brucellosis in goats?
It is the best one, best method.
And Roja Chhatri from Sikkim, she wants to ask you that when we are giving antibiotics to the first week kids, so whether they are needed to be given, and if then which antibiotics we should choose.
See, oxytetracycline is the best choice. It is a growth promoter
Hello,
also,
sir.
and it is recommended.
Hello.
Yeah.
Uh,
Hello.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
Which antibiotics we should prefer while treating kids of first 5 to 7 days,
Yeah, that is
if needed?
yeah, oxytetracycline. Oxytetracycline is the best. Otherwise, you can prefer neomycin and doxycycline.
Okay, thank you, sir. So all are saying that your presentation is very nice, simple, clear, and they want your presentation. So I would request participant if they need any help, they want any guidance from Dr. Ashok Kumar Walapadasu, sir. Contact him. He has given his mobile number. Also, I have given you the detailed program in our national training programs group. So you can get his email address from there and you can contact him. Thank you very much, Walapadasu sir. So as you have been good with us, and this time also you have given spared your valuable time and presented it very nicely, and you have, I think, justified the topic, herd health management.